This is part two of how to create a strong sense of self. If you haven't watched part one, I urge you to go back and do it because what I'm going to talk about here will make a lot more sense if you watched part one too. So please do that. Oh, and for those who haven't and still insist on watching it, this is Jurgen Rasmussen. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis vlog. So, one additional way, and this is kind of paradoxical in a sense, to create a strong sense of self, a sense of self that seems permanent, stable, uh, is through the non-dual routes. But you kind of have to stop at a intermediate stage. Um, this is heavily emphasized in quite a few non-duality teachings. You could easily get this if you follow the teaching of Nisargadatta Maharaj. You could easily get here if you follow the teachings of Rupert Spira. I'm not saying that these teachers stop here. I'm just saying that you could easily get here, right? So what you then do is you help someone or yourself to notice that there's something, which of course isn't a thing, but something which is aware of their thoughts, their feelings, their perceptions, and their sensations, and to then identify with that. So a very typical way of doing it is to just take the utterance I or the utterance I am, and to then kind of trace it back to what it refers to or what it seems to refer to. And you'll notice that there's being or consciousness, for lack of better words. And then you begin to explore the nature of consciousness or being itself, right? So you might experientially ask questions such as, well, this sense of I or being, this aliveness, can I locate it anywhere? Is it in the brain or in the mind or in the body? Do I have an experience of it starting and stopping? Uh, does consciousness weigh anything? Um, does it have any objective qualities? Could, could I grab it? Is it a thought? Is it a feeling? Is it a sensation? Is it a perception? By practicing a question such as, what is it that's aware of my experience? Or what is the constant in experience? Um, by resting as consciousness or being, that which is aware of thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and sensations, there's very often then instead of there being an identification with thoughts and feelings. So for most of us, it seems as if our very being, so to speak, is fused with whatever the mind creates moment by moment. So we say things like, I am depressed or I am anxious, and we mean it. It seems as if we kind of are fused with the thoughts and feelings. There's this identification with thinking moment by moment, which makes it seem as if we kind of are the activity of the mind, the personality, the thoughts, the feelings, the mood states, and whatever stories get created, around that. In this kind of more non-dual approach, there's an emphasis on just noticing that there's something which is aware of the voice of the mind, which is aware of the thoughts and the feelings and the perceptions and the sensations, which itself is just aware, which itself is not a thought or feeling or perception, and which clearly is, but is not in time or space, and is not itself made of thoughts and feelings. That which is prior and which remains whenever thoughts and feelings disappear. A meditation technique like one of those that Shinzen Young has very much popularized, noting gone, where you sit and you just kind of note gone every time a sensation or perception or thought disappears, or subcomponents of it disappear, uh, and resting as that which remains can easily then create this notion that there's this stable, permanent consciousness which is always there, which is then turned into an I or a self, meaning the selfing process then kind of identifies with consciousness. So I'm not the feelings. I'm not the thoughts. I am that which is aware of the thoughts. I am consciousness essentially. Now sometimes too, people build this huge spiritual ego. There might be even some insight into the self being an illusion, and then the selfing process kicks up and creates an identity of us being the one who has seen through that illusion, right? Which isn't too useful. Um, Now, this particular insight, that we are not our thoughts and feelings because they come and go and they're intermittent. This is often a hugely valuable insight, for people to have in the context of psychotherapy and coaching and stuff like that, because it weakens that spell of constant identification with thinking and feeling. Of course, there's no I in consciousness either. You know, if consciousness has no objective qualities, then it's neither an I nor another. Obviously, the selfing activity is an expression of consciousness and arises in consciousness. But this sense of being consciousness, is of course also illusory in that sense. But it's a different form of self that people can create, and often quite useful. There's a woman who's part of this organization, a lawyer who calls herself M.E. Thomas, who's a diagnosed, well, psychopath, or someone who has strong psychopathic traits. She has this channel on YouTube, just M.E. Thomas, where she interviews other psychopaths. And I think her name was Victoria. There's an Asian woman who had high psychopathic traits who claims that her life and her experience of herself dramatically changed for the better through meditation and through kind of creating this very shift. So that might be something to look into. Now, as a non-duality teacher like Rupert Spira might point out, he might point out that this is just a kind of first step, that for most of us, our being seems so fused with the content of thinking and feeling and perceiving and sensing that it's necessary as a first step to kind of create this dualistic artificial distinction between consciousness and its contents. And then that the next step is to really explore the nature of being or consciousness. And then for the qualities, given that consciousness, since it doesn't lack anything, and has no other in a sense. You could say, in that sense, you could say that its nature is love and peace. To have that really begin to to kind of have our thoughts and feelings and behaviors really become an expression of that. That can be a lifetime of work and development. I mean, this self too is also an illusion, but again, it might be a very useful one and one that's highly preferable and more correct in a sense than one of just being constantly identified with thoughts and feelings. So again, I hope you found this useful. As always, if you would like to explore change work with me, you can find out more at provocativehypnosis.com. If you're watching this in 2025, I'm doing a 2-day online psychological illusion model training on February the 15th and 16th. I'd really love to see you there. It combines the best of Western and Eastern approaches to insight and change. You can find more information at ayetherandalchemy.net. I'll provide links to both of the websites below. And as always, thanks for listening.